Top of the Friday evening to you. There is another ingredient being thrown into the controversy over fairness in college admissions. This one has to do with the SAT test, now adding what's being called an adversity score. What's that? Chris tells us.
It is the most widely used college admission test, the SAT. But a student's math, writing, and reading score will now come with another, an adversity score, as many are calling it. The College Board, the company that runs the SAT, calls it the Environmental Context Dashboard. Its purpose is to put a student's test score in context with the school and the neighborhood that they come from.
What this tool allows us to see is there is so much more talent out there than a test score reveals alone.
Here's how it works. Test takers get a score between 1 and 100, and it's calculated using 15 factors from public data. That includes the crime rate and poverty level of the student's home neighborhood, the relative quality of the student's high school, family income, and environment, etc. Now, the students and parents cannot see the adversity score. It is only for college admissions to see. The chief executive of the College Board tells the New York Times, quote, "This is about finding young people who do a great deal with what they've been given. It helps colleges see students who may not have scored as high, but when you look at the environment that they have emerged from, it's amazing." But this isn't exactly the golden age for standardized tests, and the critics of the tests are still there. First, more than half of the top 100 liberal arts colleges by U.S. News & World Report are test optional right now. And one of the biggest SAT critics, the National Center for Fair and Open Testing, believes this new adversity score proves the test's biases. Robert Schaefer, public ed director for Fair Test, said, quote, "Test makers long claimed that their products were a common yardstick for comparing applicants from a wide range of schools. This latest initiative concedes that the SAT is really a measure of accumulated advantage, which should not be used without an understanding of a student's community and family background," end quote. SAT had a similar pilot program in the 1990s called the Strivers Program, but that one included race and was quickly shouted down and then squashed. This program does not include race, just environment and socioeconomic data. So I reached out to a number of colleges in Minnesota. There are 6 of them that accept the SAT, and one of them responded to me, and it was Minnesota State University Mankato, and they basically said, we're still looking into this quote-unquote adversity score, but they did applaud the College Board for recognizing that people from very diverse set of backgrounds can achieve well in college.
And I read about this, Chris, and it said that they kind of tested this out at some schools already, and it looks like they're going to roll it out. But is it a done deal, or does it still need some tweaks, this adversity score?
No, it's a done deal as it is. I think they tested 50 universities, and a lot of those universities said it did help them increase diversity on their campus and admissions. But it's not without protest.
Of course not.